Well, we keep a close eye on live visuals coming from Washington, D.C., where seemingly a briefing will be taking place in just a moment. But just moments ago, we did, of course, see Christopher Landau, Deputy Secretary of State of the United States of America, addressing those 49 South Africans that have touched down in Washington. We're going to get different perspectives on this and take your WhatsApps on 072-110-5584 or your calls on 010-594-6010. We're joined now by Werner Human, who is the operational head at Solidarity Movement. We're also joined by Kagodi Morota, who's the CEO of the Black Forum of South Africa, and Soli Moeng, who is, of course, a brand reputation strategist. Gentlemen, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us, Werner. I want to start with you. Just as Solidarity, we know that you, alongside AfriForum as well, had journeyed to Washington, D.C. to raise some concerns about what is happening in South Africa. I'd like to hear what you make of the images of those 49 South Africans. There they are, holding little American flags and being welcomed by the Deputy Secretary of State. Is this what you had envisioned?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this discussion. The images that we saw of the South Africans leaving the country last night, I think, or 2 nights ago, it is a sad image. It's a sad image because they are leaving the country. It's a sad image because they don't see any hope anymore for them in the country, and they would very much have preferred to stay in the country. The circumstances that they presented and the decision that they've made compel them to go to the United States. What we envisage with our visits is what we've stated throughout the years. We say to alert the international communities of the many wrong things that are happening in the country on policy level, and the solutions that we propose as the broader Solidarity Movement therefore needs to be also aired and needs to be understood and conveyed to the United States. One of the most pertinent messages that we give through, and that is very well received, is that for solutions to take place, that those solutions must occur in the country that we have. And we also present them with our solutions, and it's received very well. So we say, by far, most Afrikaners will remain in South Africa. We respect the decision of those that have decided to leave the country and go to the US. And as I said, it's a sad situation. Yeah. But we are wanting to advance the solutions that we have here, and therefore we are committed and remain committed to that endeavor. Yeah,
but Werner, I want to use the words that you've used, right? You say you respect their decision and they have their circumstances that compelled them to make this move, these 49 South Africans. I wonder if those circumstances, in your view, line up with the view that there is a white genocide happening in the country, that land grabs are the circumstances that compelled these 49 individuals to leave.
I want to refer you to quite a few points that has been in the media this past 3 months. This past 3 months, we've seen claims that have been made against us that we have said that we've not have said. One of the claims that has been foisted upon us and foisted onto the public is that we are saying that there are state-sponsored land grabs occurring in the country, which we've never said. There has been foisted upon the public the position that we say there's a white genocide taking place in the country, which we've never said. And it's been peddled along and accepted. There's been various findings by the press ombudsman against certain media houses, and I can name them for you. There's a whole list to deter from that. So what's my own view? I'm saying is that we have a country here, we have a government here that are creating circumstances which is bad for the country. Those are the policies that it's adopted, and they, in the public, they would say these things are for redress and for transformation, and that means that you cannot criticize those things. As soon as you criticize government's attempts of transformation, which they use, and the president said it again earlier this day, and so did the minister, they say these are attempts for transformation, but when we say our focus is not the intention of policies, but the outcomes of policies. And we say that is the point that needs attention. So first of all, we did not say those things that you've foisted upon us, but we did say, and we are saying, there are land grabs across the country, but that's not the main point of contention that we are offering here. We are saying we differ with government, we have a different view, and we have a different view of solutions, and we want to work together with that. But just to throw these things out, we don't think that that is constructive. And just directly to your question in relation to the the 49 people. They are the ones that made the decision. I cannot go on and say, this is what I think that they say, this is what I believe they would have considered. I'm saying this is the reality of what is happening in the country.
Some interesting questions, and of course we continue with our panel, but one of the questions asked was whether or not these 49 South Africans would be moving towards receiving American citizenship, but not a clear answer to that particular question. Of course, Landau going into then talk about the issue of expropriation, saying that they faced direct violence and there was a lack of effort or success from the government in doing anything about it. Also citing the singing of the Kill the Boer. Asked as well why this exception after the U.S. has paused U.S. refugee programs, saying that that is subjected to exceptions and that they have looked at who would easily assimilate into the American community. And in some of these cases, they've paused these refugee programs because refugees were not vetted. And you'd remember that they highlight quite emphatically at the beginning there that they were vetted by South Africa, which we saw, of course, taking place before they left. But let's continue with our panel. We're still with Werner Human, who is the operational head at Solidarity Movement. Solly Moeng is a reputation strategist, and perhaps, Solly, we can come to you. Solly, what this moment is and says for brand South Africa. A proud moment.
It's not a proud moment, Naledi, because actually the truth is becoming the victim of all this. It's caught in between. Things are being said, as Werner said also earlier, look, the more a lie is repeated, the more it becomes truth. If Trump continues to say that there's genocide in South Africa, I wonder if these refugees who've just arrived in America will be able to say, no, actually, Mr. President Trump, it's not exactly genocide, it's something else. I don't think they will do that. So South Africa is now stuck at a point where it needs to explain itself. It needs to say this is exactly what's going on in South Africa, but it also needs to, the truth is, kill the Boer, kill the farmer is not the right song. I don't understand why the Constitutional Court of South Africa said it's okay to sing that song. Imagine a child who's a Boer, who's 10 years old, who hears young black adults in large crowds saying we're going to kill the Boer, kill the farmer. It's not right. I don't understand why they get. So we need to be able to look into the mirror as a country and ask ourselves what really defines us. And we have to be open to difficult conversations, because the truth is the Constitution says all of us belong. All who live in South Africa belong in South Africa. But we don't create conditions for some of us to feel that they belong here and they can live here. We're going to end up with situations where the narratives gets taken by other people outside for nefarious agendas. We know that Trump might have other agendas. He's not happy with South Africa's stance on Israel and that sort of thing. But then if we don't have the unity in South Africa to send out a clear, united message outside, then the narrative is going to be distorted, and we find ourselves on the back foot as a brand, as a country brand.
Advocate Refugee Morota is the CEO of the Black Forum of South Africa. Talk to us about what's top of mind as you look at what we've been seeing, 49 South Africans arriving in the US, and also just what we're hearing. I mean, you've got the Deputy Secretary of State there, Landau, saying that these individuals have shared stories of violence and how they fear for their lives. I mean, they talk about egregious persecution of individuals. The public perception that this creates around race relations in South Africa, Advocate.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening, Naledi, to the viewers at home. I think as a country, this gives us an opportunity to deal with the propaganda and the lies which have been sold to the world about our country. We should not take this as something bad towards our country. We must take this as an opportunity to, tell our story, because they talk about genocide. We know how a genocide happens in a country. In a country like South Africa, a person who will claim genocide must be dreaming, because the gentleman here from Solidarity actually denies that they never said there is a genocide in South Africa. They have been saying it, that there is genocide in South Africa, particularly on the white farmers. But when we go around the farming communities in this country, we still find farm workers, farm communities, members of farm communities still being killed by white farmers and plant them into fertilizers. We still find white farmers having torture rooms, in their farms, torturing the farming communities. But now these 49 people, and I wonder why 49? If indeed there was a genocide, I thought thousands and thousands of Afrikaners will have taken the offer, and then now they will have been in America. And also, where are their farms? We need to verify if these 49 people, have they left the farms where they have been killed by black people and the government has been silent? Where are those farms? Black Forum would like to occupy those farms as well. So this is just a lie. This is just a propaganda which AfriForum, Solidarity, and white political parties in this country are trying to sell to the powerful nations of the world so that they can intimidate South Africa, because they believe strongly that, or they think strongly that they will one day lead South Africa. That is why they are reluctant to leave. I never expected to see 49 persons leaving to America.
I want to quickly hear from Lisa, because Lisa, of course, you are Associate Professor and Deputy Director of the SACHI Chair for African Diplomacy and Foreign Policy at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. Help us with this. You've got President Cyril Ramaphosa, who says at 4 a.m. this morning he had a call with Donald Trump, and he says, and I quote, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true. And yet, on the very same day, you have Trump, who's come out and responded and still digs in his heels and continues to talk about the persecution that white South Africans are facing. He says, because they're being killed and we don't want to see people be killed. This is all on the same day. So it looks like the communication just isn't hitting home here. Prof?
Yeah, so I think if we take a generous view of this, we could say that people don't understand South African crime statistics or haven't really looked into South African crime statistics to understand what the real story is. I think beneath that probably is that this is a move by the Trump administration that actually serves its political goals domestically by playing into this sense of kind of white victimhood that has grown in America. If Trump is keen enough to see people being killed, then perhaps he might take a different stance towards Israel, where we have seen in Gaza tens of thousands of people dying needlessly, had it not been for US intervention to stop that. My position is that this is not based in fact. Furthermore, the US has taken a concept which is an important one under international law, that of the refugee, which provides important protections to people who face persecution. And it has basically weakened this concept by taking this group of people into the United States and by conducting this process without the assistance of the United Nations Refugee Agency.
Now let's take calls. Thanks for that, Prof. Yvonne is calling in from Pretoria. Yvonne, good evening to you. Thanks for calling.
Evening, Lady. How are you?
I'm well. Talk to us, Yvonne.
I'm not well at all because I was supposed to be well, but things doesn't go the way I thought. Regarding the 49 Afrikaners who are leaving, I'm saying let them go. We shouldn't be worried or say a lot of things about them. Let them go. One thing we must stand our ground and say you must never come back. They must come, not even to visit. What worries me is that South African government and the government in general doesn't do much to make sure that we stand our ground, not to be bullied. We must now stand our ground and start to end the Orania and Klipfontein so that we are punished for capture funding and taxes and for whatsoever for a reason. We cannot be bullied, yet we are surrendering. There's nothing to surrender. Let them go, and now at least we can see the real racists that are living. That's my comment. So we mustn't be worried about them. Let them go.
Yvonne, thank you so much for calling. We're taking WhatsApps as well on 0721105584. Let's take a look at a few of those that have come in from our viewers. Temba from Kempton Park says, good evening, Lady. Donald Trump cancelled all programs of refugees for all other countries. So what's so special about these South Afrikaners? I think Donald Trump is just using the situation to make our government look so bad in the global community for taking Israel to the international court. Okay, Temba, thanks for that. Sibolege says, these Afrikaners are just showing that they don't accept the post-94 changes and will do anything and everything to protect and preserve white privilege. Let them go because transformation is inevitable. Ivan Alexander says, these people who have arrived in the US are an embarrassment to us as South Africans. The USA is also totally inconsistent in their immigration system. We need to stand together as South Africans and reject attempts to divide us into racial groupings. These people can most likely not even speak English. Okay, Ivan? And Siputi says, good evening, Naledi. These Afrikaner refugees are playing gaslighting tactics. I'm not sure if they envisage talks between Pretoria and Washington will materialize, because President Trump is adamant that there is genocide perpetrated against white Afrikaners in South Africa, which is absolutely not true. Keep the messages coming in. We, of course, continue our discussion with our panel. Werner, operational head at Solidarity Movement. Werner, talk to us about the work that is being done by Solidarity to deal with the narrative that we hear from Donald Trump, for instance, in the Trump administration of, and again, I use the words genocide and land grabs, which you insist you have not used.
Yes, no, and it has been said again by some of the panel members and also some of the viewers. So we can only stand for that what we say and that what we advance. We want, what our vision is for the country is that we must be a prosperous country, that each community in the country must be able to be free, and each member, each citizen of the country must be able to reach their full potential. And what we are saying is the work that we do from ground level, community level up, must speak for itself, and we do so through various means, local government and other means as well, that we are very active in. So we've proven that. In relation to what the US or Trump administration would state, or any other person for that matter, that is something that can be stated is taken up with those particular positions or those particular statements there. We can say what we are advancing. And what we are saying is that there is a political climate that is a climate that is dangerous and that is unfortunate. We have an ANC government for the past 30 years that has governed for this past 3 decades with impunity. They were able to govern and make statements and take policy positions without any consequences. And what we see now from the international community is ultimately that there is now action against those policy decisions, because according to the US, it affects their national security and their national interest. What South Africa needs to do, and it's maybe in answer to the caller that just said that we must not allow ourselves to be bullied and we must stand our ground firm. If you want to take in a position as a country like South Africa, you must realize that the position that you take in must be in the national interest. If you look at the United States, they have more than 60% of the world economy on their side. We have less than 1%. But we do have an opportunity to get good relations with the United States, to get good relations with the European nations, and also other parts of the world that is in the national interest. So to take the bully tactic and stand up won't serve the national interest that we serve. The narrative that we are saying is that what's happening in South Africa is wrong in terms of the policy directions and the acts that have been enacted here. We think it's the detriment of everyone in South Africa, and we formulated policies and solutions to all of those things.
Yeah.
That fact that we differ with the government cannot be equated to us telling or spreading lies. It's just simply against the narrative of the government, and these divergent views should rather be welcomed than attacked.
Yeah, Solly, help us out here. I mean, Werner essentially saying that we need to relook at our policies. And AfriForum, along with Solidarity in February this year, really sharing their views with the Trump administration. But now what we're getting from the administration is, again, I go back to the words, genocide and land grabs. So what do we do about changing the language? And this is perhaps the real question. Whose responsibility is it? Does AfriForum and Solidarity need to also go back to Washington, D.C. and have that conversation once again?
Thanks, Naledi. Look, I'm tempted to say, both AfriForum and Solidarity, seemingly they are more credible in as far as Trump is concerned. Maybe they're the only ones who can say to Trump, but it's not true. There's no genocide happening in South Africa. It's not true that there's no systemic persecution of white people in South Africa. They will. I think they stand to be more believed by Trump than the government and the rest of us. But it doesn't mean that this is not a moment for South Africa to put plasters over wounds that are festering. The truth, we have issues happening in South Africa. I mentioned earlier the Constitutional Court saying it's okay to sing the bull, sing the farmer, or kill the bull, kill the farmer. What would you say if that song said kill the colors, or kill the Indians, or kill the blacks? We cannot pretend that that's okay. It's not okay. So we need to have conversations in South Africa as one people, whether we like it or not. We are destined to make this country to work together. We need to be clear about what we stand for. Maybe this opportunity of a national dialogue that everybody is pushing around, that's probably going to happen, will be one where we all get together, agree to disagree on what we want to be known for, to be associated with as a country. But I don't agree with this notion that people must just go. The thing is, you say other people must go today, tomorrow it's going to be you who have to go. And you're going to find yourself standing alone. So we must correct the lies about South Africa. There's no doubt about it. But we must also look into the mirror and acknowledge that things are not right in South Africa. We shouldn't be emotionally bludgeoned into defending the indefensible because when we do that, the people who benefit, people will say that those who are perpetuating things that South Africans are not happy with will continue thinking that, okay, they're the victims. They're hiding behind this fake, bludgeoned, emotional patriotism. We need to have the conversations. We know that South Africa is not well. South Africa has not been well for a while, not because of America, long before Trump came into America. If we refuse to have those conversations and we use these people as a scapegoat not to have those conversations, you, me, Lerato, we are going to be the ones crying. I've just returned from Switzerland, not because of Trump, but because I was persecuted, for instance, in South Africa. Right? So let's have the conversations about what country we want, okay? And agree that the world of winners takes all or zero-sum games has no future. Now, we can't convince the world about what South Africa stands for if we can agree fair, so that when the message goes out there, we are united in that message, and we need to travel that difficult path as a country.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to continue this conversation on the other side of it. Get in touch with us via WhatsApp 072-110-5584 or give us a call 010-594-6010. We're back in a moment. Welcome back. You're still watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition with myself, Naledi Mulong. We've been showing you images of the 49 South Africans that have arrived as refugees in the United States, welcomed there by officials at Washington, D.C. And of course, we continue to get reaction with our panel, and we're taking calls as well. Moroke is calling in from Polokwane. Moroke, good evening.
Hello, how are you, Naledi?
Hi, thank you so much for calling, Moroke. Go ahead.
This is painful, Naledi. These Afrikaners, when they are spreading wrong rumors, we've been told by our previous President Nelson Mandela that we must sit in the table and share the same meal. There's nobody who's killing the white farmers. And these killings, the crimes we have in South Africa, is common. It doesn't choose a color. So now we are surprised. It's like we are killing the white Afrikaners. So I'm worried. I'm deeply worried about this.
So what do you suggest we do? Yeah.
No, and when the Americans, they receive them, they don't even want to hear our side. It's like us, we're doing something wrong. No, we must sit in the table, discuss this, because now I thought racism is going to end, but by the look of things, it's like the Americans are promoting these things.
Moroke, we appreciate your call. Thank you so much for getting in touch with us. We'll take a look at a couple of WhatsApps as well. Eddie Landon sends a text that says, where are their farms, their cattle, their livestock? South Africa, please specify where these families come from, their houses. Where were they employed? Eddie, thanks for that. Mario Maklopa says, South Africa must be very careful. Singing and legalized songs like kill the boer, kill the farmer, etc. is shooting us in the foot. Labor hiring quotas, etc. If there's no apartheid, why is there quotas? Hire and experienced, higher by experience and not by skin color. Okay, Mario, thank you so much for that. And Sunil says, hi, this is such a bad reflection to brand South Africa and investors by these Afrikaners leaving this beautiful country. Sunil, we appreciate your thoughts. I want to start getting recommendations. Prof. Otto, perhaps you can help us. Moroke says that we need to sit at the table and talk. Solly talks about, we saw the national foundations coming together as well, continuing to call for this national dialogue. Could that help when the world is able to see a national dialogue take place in how the world sees South Africa?
I do think that we need to be doing better as a nation in terms of really collectively contributing towards the future that I think we all want to see. It's the same one of a prosperous South Africa, a South Africa that works, a South Africa in which we can all thrive and be happy. But unfortunately, I don't think at an individual level we're all going far enough to actually make those inroads and to make those contributions to the society that we want to see. I think also that, I wouldn't think really that the majority of kind of key leaders around the world believe that there's truth to these assertions of Afrikaner genocide. And I do think also that Trump, through his actions, not just this one, but the way that he's really reshaping the US as a power within the world, is going to shift the global order in a way that will be difficult to undo. And so I think at a foreign policy level, the decisions that we take will need to be cognizant of that. And just a last thought, I think, in that regard is also that if these actions by Trump, and particular this one that we're talking about today, is geared towards putting pressure on South Africa to backtrack on its position at the ICJ, or by threatening AGOA, for example, to get us to toe the line. I think we would want to look at, for example, the transatlantic relationship and look at how this current administration treats even its friends. And I think what we'll find is that even that story is not encouraging. And so, I think we need to be looking at our other partners around the world. We need to be looking at perhaps the future more broadly in terms of the world order. And, having said all of that, I do also think that we can continue to work on the way we portray ourselves around the world, and to ensure that our history and that our story is properly understood.
Yeah, that's going to be important. Advocate Morota, is the national dialogue the magic pill that gets us there?
No, we are, tired of speaking. We have been speaking, we have been talking because talk is cheap. As the South African government is on the right path to pass the laws which seek to redress the past injustices, because we are still suffering from the post-colonial apartheid hangover. Their effects are still alive and well in the contemporary South Africa. So we need the laws to change, those effects of the apartheid. But also when I'm listening to, these speakers, especially from the right wing organization, it seems like as a country, especially Black people, after being bitten by a snake, instead of reacting towards that, we had to wait there to explain to the snake why we did not deserve the biting. After we've been subjected to the apartheid, its atrocities, killings, segregations, and dispossessions. And then after 94, we seated there trying to explain, even today, to the Afrikaners why we did not deserve to be subjected to apartheid. Black people must start to use power. They talk bad about Black people. They talk bad about Black administration. For example, they talk bad about ANC because when South Africa started to respond towards the lie the Solidarity and AfriForum have shared to America, they said, no, don't punish South Africa, punish ANC leaders. But the very same ANC leaders are, giving white organizations like Democratic Alliance a huge, chunk of the government administration in the GNU. All critical ministries are given to them, although the very same Democratic Alliance is so critical of the African National Congress. So I think as Black people, we must utilize the political power we have. We must stop playing with power, because Trump is demonstrating to us that when we have political power, you must use it. And I think in this case, our African National Congress, they should not play with power. But my last point that I want to raise, especially to what Mr. Moyeng have said, emphasizing repeatedly on the kill the poor, kill the farmer. I think my brother is just, trying to miss a point deliberately, because the issue of the kill the poor, kill the farmer was rigorously, explained through the court of law. It is part of our heritage, similar as Afrikaners are, showing off their apartheid flags and all that. And since that song has been sang, or the chant, whatever it is, there is no person, no Afrikaner who was killed because the song was sang or the chant was sang. So to come here and say that it is wrong, a child singing that might mean something else, it's not true. Black people, we are good with words, rhetoric, songs. White people, they do it. They execute their plans. They kill a black woman and feed her to the pigs. They go to America to intimidate, South Africa. They kill black people like flies. There are many stories we can make reference to. So the difference between black people and the white people, especially Afrikaners, is that Afrikaners, when they have to act on something, they close their eyes and ears and do it. We can sing, we can talk, we can have the national dialogues. We are known for that. They do it, we talk about it. Thank you very much.
All right, I need to close off a bit. Van, I'm going to let you have your final thoughts here. And this is, again, when we say, all right, there has to be a middle point where race relations is concerned in South Africa, could a national dialogue bring us closer to that from the positioning and the standpoint of solidarity?
Naledi, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you ending this interview to say, how can we move forward? I think what we've just heard is one of the most outrageous things that probably been heard on the television sets of people. That is shocking. But I want not to delve into that, because that will derange us again. I want to make an observation. I want to make a distinction between two types of relationship: a vertical relationship and a horizontal relationship. The horizontal relationship we have in the country between ordinary people in the country are good and positive. And I think we can all attest to that. Everywhere where I move and where I work, I don't see the horizontal relationship between ordinary people of this country, of all races and languages, are strained. I feel quite comfortable wherever I move. But where we do have a problem is with the vertical relationship, the relationship from the state to the people. And the Advocates Organization is part of that tentacles and networks from the state, who are using the language that is politicized and that are conflicting and that are driving people around. The problems that they see are always an external locus of control. It's always outside of them. It's never for them to ask, what did we do wrong and what was we done to correct? So the solution, the national dialogue would be very important, but how it's situated and how it's framed is extremely important. But the principle, Naledi, just to give also the other panelists also a chance, the idea of, on a horizontal level, different organizations, different communities, different people with different views come together and say, we must rather focus on what we have in common, because we've got many shared common interests in the country. We all want a safe country. We all want a clean country. We want a country where the economy is growing. That's what we all have in common. And then we should leave adequate space for culture, for language, and that's where we differ. And that balance, we say, must be reached for the country, for a country like us. So that is what I would say in support of a dialogue between the peoples of the country.
Right, and I think consensus there. I want to hear from one last caller. Mduduzi is in Germiston. Mduduzi, good evening.
Good evening, Naledi and your panelists.
Thank you so much for calling. Thank you so much. Go ahead, talk to us.
Yes, I wanted to say, this issue about the 49 African refugees is twofold. On a light note, the whole world knows Donald Trump's stance on immigration, and this should reflect on us as South Africans to say, really, are we handling our own immigration crisis of 8 years with screening, as we've had, that nobody with convictions went there, and then we know about the whole issue about the health screening that experts, even we as South Africans, when we go there, they expect from us. And the more deeper issue is the issue of the land. As we know that when South Africa, before the 1948 apartheid administration took over the country, what happened between Churchill and then President of the US, Roosevelt, when they made agreement that they would take certain territories that the United Kingdom owned in South Africa? There was certain land agreements that the U.S. owns in South Africa, and this is a hard issue when it comes to what Donald Trump was talking about the land acquisition. So it's something that's very deep, because for the country might think, no, the president of the country, President Republic, is just interested about losing maybe some of the shares he has in the American conglomerates, the mining, etc., the history that he has. But for us as a sovereignty, we have to look at what happened in 1940 between President Roosevelt and the UK Prime Minister Churchill on this issue of land that the UK lost in exchange to get assistance from defeating the Nazi regime that was destroying London.
Duduzi, thank you so much. Expanding the terms of reference of our discussion this evening, we do appreciate it, though, Duduzi in Germiston. And thank you so much to our panelists. A difficult but a necessary conversation. Solly Moeng, brand reputation strategist, Varna Human operational head at Solidarity Movement, Professor Lisa Otto, who is chair of African Diplomacy and Foreign Policy at the University of Johannesburg, and Advocate Kagodi Morota, CEO of the Black Forum of South Africa. You're still watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition. We've got your top stories after this.